This lens made me feel like a real photographer again, and I haven't felt that way in a long time. Hey, it's Marlene. This lens on this camera has supercharged my creativity. Some of the reasons people avoid getting into full-frame camera systems is the size, the weight, and also the cost of the lenses, especially fast primes. But that all changes with this lens from TTArtisan, the 75mm f2 lens. Disclaimer, TTArtisan gave me this lens to test and to review, but these opinions are all my own and they don't have any control over what I say. But I think you're going to like this lens because I sure do. This lens allowed me to connect with people by doing informal portrait sessions. And that's something I love to do, and this lens actually motivated me to get out there and shoot portraits again. Last year I got the LUMIX S9 and a couple of zoom lenses with it. Now those lenses weren't super fast. The 20 to 60 only goes to f4 and the 18 to 40 goes down to f4.5. So not super fast lenses. I'm so used to my micro four thirds prime lenses, the 9mm and the 15mm f1.7 lenses, that I had to be really careful with my exposure, especially in low light. Now I didn't have anything longer than the 60mm for this camera, so when TTArtisan reached out with the 75, I jumped at the chance, especially because it was f2. TTArtisan is part of the L-Mount Alliance, and that gives us more range of lenses to choose from, especially if we're on a budget. Now 75mm is the perfect focal length for portraits, but I had fun shooting other subjects with this lens too. Okay, here's some specs. This is an autofocus lens. Like I said, that's ideal for portraits. The f-stop range is f2 to f16. It has a click-stop aperture ring, 62mm filter thread. The lens construction has a metal body, but it's still lightweight. It has an optical structure of 10 elements in 7 groups, including 1 extra low dispersion element and 4 high index elements. This gives reduced dispersion and chromatic aberration. It works well with subject detection on the S9. It supports eye, animal, and vehicle detection autofocus. It includes the square tulip-shaped lens hood. Now, I'm a fan of lens hoods. It includes a back lens cap with USB-C for firmware updates. Now that requires Windows 10 Plus. And here's the great part. The price of this lens is only $200 US. It's incredibly well priced, and it will suit people on a budget or students. But don't let the low cost of this lens fool you. It's a very good lens. Now I did some tests for sharpness, and as expected with any lens, sharpness does fall off at the corners. But you probably got an f2 lens because you wanted beautiful bokeh. So you're not super concerned about corner sharpness. What about overall sharpness? It's good, but remember that if you're close to your subject and shooting wide open, your depth of field is very shallow, so you might end up with less in focus than you actually need, especially if you're used to micro four thirds like I am. I was kind of shocked by the really thin slice of depth of field that I got with this lens. So don't shoot it wide open all the time if you need more depth of field. So the shallow depth of field of this lens could lead you to think that it's not actually very sharp, but it is. What about bokeh? Well, I've been shooting micro four thirds for so long that I've kind of forgotten what beautiful creamy bokeh looks like, and this lens definitely delivers on that. It's lovely. What about fringing? In my backlit tests, I really couldn't see any fringing or chromatic aberration. And if you keep the lens hood attached, you shouldn't have any issues with unwanted flare. Minimum focusing distance is 0.75 meters, and that's just under 30 inches. Occasionally I found myself getting a bit too close to my subject, so I had to back up a bit just to get things within that minimum focus distance. So there is no lens stabilization, so make sure your camera body stabilization is on if you're hand holding, as things can get pretty jumpy otherwise. The S9 IBIS really worked well on this clip, as you can see. So what are my overall impressions of this lens? Well, this lens is a joy to use on the LUMIX S9. The first time I took it out to test, I was stoked with the results. It balances well with this camera. It's not too heavy, but has enough weight that it feels very comfortable in your hands. And since the S9 is rather slim, it helps you hold it securely when you're composing your shots through the back LCD screen. It was so nice to shoot with a fast prime lens again. I don't think I've had a fast portrait lens since my film days when I had an 85mm f1.8. The bokeh is smooth and creamy. I have to admit that you just don't get this kind of bokeh with Micro Four Thirds. The fast speed of this lens meant that I could shoot in really low light situations like this tunnel. Shooting with this lens really made me love the full frame sensor size again and got me out shooting with the LUMIX S9 a lot more, especially for portraits. And in the last 2 weeks, I've done 4 portrait sessions. Because of this lens and the newer battery-operated light I just received, I found myself dreaming up interesting on-location portrait scenarios. This lens made me feel like a real photographer again, and I haven't felt that way in a long time. If you want to purchase this lens, please use my affiliate link in the video description below, and I appreciate all the support that you give me, so thank you very much. Any downsides? Well, I found the f-stop ring a little loose, and I found that I accidentally changed f-stops a few times. It would be nice if it had a lock on it, or maybe it was just a little tighter. I also wish there was a manual focus switch on the lens because I often do close-ups of things, and I just like the fact that I can flip it into manual quickly because the S9 doesn't have a manual focus switch on the back of the camera like some of the other LUMIX cameras do. So it would have been nice just to have a little switch on the side of the lens for that. Now, as mentioned in the specs, the firmware update goes through the back lens cap of the lens, and it has a USB port in there. Now, one of the issues is it only works with Windows. Now, I don't use Windows. I have a Mac, and most photographers I know have Macs. So my big suggestion to TTArtisan is make a version for Mac computers, because I have to borrow a friend's computer to update the firmware. Now, I've also been shooting with this LUMIX S 18mm f1.8 lens the last couple of weeks, and I think this lens, in combination with the TTArtisan 75mm lens, makes a great combo for these type of environmental portraits. I'll be doing a review of the 18mm lens soon, so stay tuned for that. Listen to that clicky f-stop ring.